John.
Okay, you can all hear me? We've got a good group today. Well, we'll start out that I was hatched on a farm down in Jackson, Minnesota, which is about 10 miles north of the Iowa border and 90 miles east of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Highway 71 and Interstate 90 down there. And I think Jim Foy is familiar with that area. He spent a lot of time down in Jackson. And so, did you know Gordon Sathe when you were down there? You didn't? Okay. They had the funeral home, so you're lucky you didn't have to spend time there. Okay. Actually, yeah, I was born there. I said hatched because my mom raised chickens. And so we had lots of chickens. And as a matter of fact, when I was a little kid, a rooster got me. And I've got a scar right here. You had stitches the whole works.
That
And
explains
it's
why.
never gone away. So, my dad also grew up on the same farm. And he first started out, he was 2 years old when they moved to Minnesota. They lived on Jefferson City, Iowa. And his parents came from Sweden, the old country, and they came over on a boat. And they grew up 13 miles apart from each other over in Sweden, didn't know each other, but when they got to New York, they were becoming good friends, and they went to Chicago, and from there they got married and went on to Iowa. And then when he was 2 years old, it came up to Minnesota. So he had an older sister that was 2 years older than him. And in Minnesota, then all together they had 6 more kids. So there were 8 kids in the family, a lot of cousins and so forth. And the oldest sister, Aunt Darlene, taught piano lessons, which I started at the age of 5 taking piano lessons. So, and kept on going. And then, and organ also. And matter of fact, when she would go on vacation, I'd fill in church then on the organ. So that was a good experience for me. And along with organ, I also got into a band, rock band. In my first year of college, I met a lot of guys from Iowa, and we had an 8-piece rock band. And we were basically stationed out in Spirit Lake, Iowa, in Arnold's Park area. And they have a big dance hall there called the Roof Garden. And they would hold about 5,000 screaming kids. And so there were quite a few dances, and we played for places all over the area. And then we had a 4-piece band just for doing clubs. We'd sing around and play and so forth. But with our 8-piece band, we had horns, and I played trombone in that group. I wasn't a very good trombone player, but all I had to do was the blast, bah, you know, on the songs. That was basically all I had to do. My main horn in high school was the baritone. That was my main horn. And I also played the tuba and got into a polka band. And we had a lot of polka places to play at, weddings and so forth. And some days I would have 2 things at one time: polka band in the afternoon and a rock band at night. Now every Tuesday down at the Roof Garden down there in Arnold's Park, they would have name bands come in. And And let me see, I've got them listed here. Oh yeah, like the Everly Brothers, the Righteous Brothers, the Trashmen, the Yardbirds from England, Tommy James and the Shondells. So it's always fun being backup band for them. And hauling my organ upstairs, the roof garden was on a second level, so we'd haul it upstairs with my Leslie amplifier, haul it around the trailer. So when you're young, you can do all these good things. Let's see. Then for singing, I started. We had a choir director there. His name was Wallace Engelbrecht. He was new to our city. He was our church choir director and our high school choir director, as was our band instructor. He was Arnold Alstead from which my mom also took violin lessons from, and played in the orchestra, the violin. So music from her side, she didn't sing much, but my dad made up for the singing because he sang in quartets. The four brothers were in a quartet together from high school and so forth. And Christmas time was a fantastic time as we got older because everybody sang parts. We all sang in their home, and nobody wanted to sing melody. Everybody wanted to sing parts. But Grandma Johnson, Hilma, lived to be 97 years old. She had a strong voice. Here comes that voice. That's where I got it from, I think. Hilma. Yes. So, anyhow, she always got the melody. And it was a beautiful time of Christmas. In my senior year, I sang the Handel's Messiah. I sang solos in Handel's Messiah, the bass solos. And then when I went to college, I went to Luther College in Decorah, Iowa. Western Noble came up to Jackson and auditioned me for the choir or the band, and he chose me for the choir. He says, I already have a good baritone player, horn player, so want me for the chorus. And I took voice lessons there in college, and my teacher thought, hey, I got to develop that upper range. So my high school director, he was good in opera and was a tenor and great voice, so I kind of had little of that but no high notes. My voice teacher got me going, and so I sang tenor, and he switched me over down at Luther College. He switched from the bass section to the tenor section. And I sang tenor all the time, except when there were a lot of low bass notes, then he'd bring me in. And I was like a Bob Dauma, reverse Bob Dauma. He's always singing bass and flipping in tenor, so I did the opposite. Then in 1967, I moved up to Edina. I was working up here then, and my uncle was off teaching at a vocational school for St. Cloud. So I lived with my aunt and my couple of cousins. They were little kids, so I helped raising them. And went to normally at a Lutheran church, and the choir director there his name was John Seagard. And again, I was singing tenor in a church choir. And we had a quartet there in a choir with 4 tenors. That was my first kind of official quartet experience because he was also a member of the Bloomington chapter. And so we got started doing all kinds of good music. And then their choir was going to Europe. And he says, well, I can use some tenors in our choir going to Europe. So I did. Went to Europe, had a great time. And we performed every place we went. First we went to Brussels, Belgium, Paris, France, Geneva, Switzerland, Milan, and Florence, Italy, Rome. Then we went across the continent to Venice, and went to Germany, into Augsburg and Nuremberg. Then we spent about 4 hours at the wall, so to speak, to go into East Germany. And it took a long time, so did a lot of quartetting on the bus and a lot of fun singing. And we finally got through to East Germany. And we went to Wittenberg. This is where Martin Luther had nailed his stuff on the church. And so played the organ there, and we sang. Of course, every place we went, we sang. So it was great fun times. Let's see, then we finally went, well, East Berlin, Checkpoint Charlie, of course, and in Berlin. And our last stop was Amsterdam, Holland. And I stayed out of the red light district. Okay. And when I got back from Europe then on that tour, my induction papers were waiting for me. The Army wanted me. So I'd always told my uncle, who was in the Navy, that I wanted to be a Navy man. And he said, well, I'll get you in. So he got me, found an opening and got me into the Navy. So I did that, got into the Navy, and I was aboard the ship, the USS Somers, and we went to Hawaii 3 times, escorting ships over, but never kept going. We always came back and escorted. We were a flagship, which means the Commodore was aboard our ship, and took care of all the other ships in the fleet. And then, let's see, after I'd been in the Navy, I was in for a 4-year hitch, but then we got out a year early for a GI Bill, so I came back and went to the University of Minnesota on the GI Bill. All the time I was kind of majoring in music. That was my main major. And hello.
Sorry. Where is it?
Then in 1971, I got married for the first time to Mary Jo. We were married 13 years, and we had my son Chris with him. And he went to the University of Michigan and was in the marching band, so that was his part of music. He didn't like to sing so much, but he was good on drums. So he did the marching band. And of course, us as parents, we drove every weekend to Michigan, 12-hour trip, round trip, and went to all the football games, saw them marching in the band. And he got married to Erica, and we got 3 grandchildren, Shelby, Wesley, and Oliver. And that's a kind of a neat deal because my grandson's name is Oliver, and now my grandfather, way back, his name was Oliver. That was my mom's dad. And his parents dropped him off when he was real young in Jackson, Minnesota. They were going through to go out west, and they dropped him off with a Brown, I mean, his name was actually Brown, and they dropped him off with an Iverson family, so he was raised as Oliver Iverson. And my mom was 4 days old, and her mother died. So it's kind of a strange thing. Then he remarried, so I had a Danish grandmother that I knew growing up. And in 1980, I had a cousin then that asked me to go to a barbershop show. And that's where it all kind of began. The show was at Orchestra Hall, and the guest quartet, none other than Happiness Emporium, and the Roadrunners were also there. And after the Afterglow, we went to Leamington, and I talked with Ken Agri. I said, "Oh, please, I gotta get into this, you know. This is so exciting." And so I was his only Man of Note award for that. And my first thrill, excuse me, I'm thirsty here. My first thrill was going to Salt Lake City for International in 1980. And of course the Boston Common was there, and they won. And I was now totally in love with barbershopping. And I've been a member for 38 years. In 1983, the City of Lakes Chorus came to the Jewish Community Center, where we practiced all the time. The Commodores had practice there. And they sang, and I saw this gal on the end. On the other end was Judy Odie, your gal.
Now yours.
And then all of a sudden, she sang in a quartet called the Brass Ring. And I said, well, that really got my attention. I don't know if it was then or not, but kind of right then and there, I kind of decided, I think I'm going to marry that gal. And I did 4 years later. Let's see, so we were married in 1984, and we had a very musical wedding. We had the music gallery that sang for us. They had won International in 1980. And they sang for a wedding, and Mary Dick sang the Lord's Prayer. So that was quite a neat wedding. Then we were married at a mansion on Summit Avenue in St. Paul. That's the row of mansions. Then we had an afterglow down below, or a reception, I guess you would call it, on the Jonathan Paddleford boat. And so we had a lot of people on there, and that was all the groups that I had mentioned with the music gallery singing, and always quartet, the Brass Ring, and then my first quartet, the Flashbacks, we sang for the Afterglow, and there were a lot of other quartets. So it was a very, very fun wedding. Okay, we had the Dixie Doors. Can't forget them. They were famous. They always played for our Commodore shows before they get in. And now I've sung with comedy quartets, Valentine quartets, and our most notable one was Valentine Quartet was Foreign Legion, and we did this every year. And Denny Roloff and Jack Beaver, if you remember Jack, sang baritone, and we had Dick Plaisted, and he sang with us most of the time. And he's also been replaced now by Ken Knudsen. We'd also invite the wives and we'd always have a dinner afterwards down at Rodney Dangerfield's. And sometimes we would sing for beers. Every gal needed to be sung to, and there were beers would be flying. One year we were there, they had a wedding going on, and that was fantastic because not only did they buy beers, they bought our dinners. How can you beat that, right? And my first quartet that I was in was called the Flashbacks, with Craig Ensley, Plenty Nelson, and Sherm Anderson on tenor. And it was later replaced on tenor by Dick Spaulding and Don Nelson. Then there's my second quartet was the Twin City Alliance. And that was Doug Miller, Mark Conlon, and my buddy here, Dwayne. And we were together 7 years. So we had a lot of good times. And you told the story last week about how we flew to Green Bay and so forth. So that's pretty well taken care of. We did a good job. The only thing that was neat about that, when the owner of that railroad we were staying for lived in Duluth. We took him home to Duluth. When we left Duluth, the skyline was so beautiful. It took 45 minutes, like you said, to get there, and 15 minutes to get back to Minneapolis. So that was, and the whole beautiful site just got closer and closer and closer of Minneapolis. So it was fun to see that lights all the way in. My third quartet was Special Alliance. That's Doug Miller again, and Glenn Aronson was our lead, and Dave Wall. And Glenn Aronson had won the district in Special Edition. And that's how we got our name. We kept the Special and added the Alliance from Twin City Alliance, so we had Special Alliance. My fourth quartet, and he's not here today, was the Harpsichords, and that was Gary Jacobson singing lead. And of course we've got Bob's here, and he won in Grandma's Bows. You won the Seniors International Contest with that, so that's fantastic. Then Mark Conlon was our first year that we sang at Sacramento, and he was having problems with his memory, and that was going, so we had to replace him with Dick Plaisted, and the same one we had for Valentine's. So we did good. Then he got cancer, throat cancer type, so that was hard. Then after that, nobody would want to sing with us. We were done. So we retired from that. And my fifth quartet was none other than Judd Orff, and that was Turning Point. And Judd sang lead second half. The first time we had a lead, his name was John Kalesha, and he moved to Knoxville, Tennessee. So then Judd switched to baritone, and so then Judd took over the lead, and Jim Johansson did the baritone then, and Chuck McCowan the tenor. Then I joined GNU in 1986 and sung with them for about 32 years. And I didn't sing with them in the first contest, but I did sing on their first show with them. And we've competed, got a lot of international medals, and we have 2 second place medals with them. and I only have one man and note award, and that's with Mark Sathe. And again, going back to one of my dad's quartets, he sang with his father, Gordon Sathe, in a quartet. And the director that I had in high school, and Wallace Engelbrecht, they had a quartet together and sang. So that's how I first got introduced to barbershopping. But they wouldn't let the kids come and sing, which is too bad, because nowadays we let the kids come in and sing, and we're encouraging. This was mostly a men's thing, you know. So we were kind of shut out. It's too bad, because I could have been a member a lot longer than what I was. In 19, okay, oh yeah, I'm talking about Mark Sathe. He is the only man note award that I have, and he was raised in Jackson too. And he was great for our chorus. He was an ambitious guy, and he sold tickets and ads and sponsorships, and did it with breeze, nothing to it. Just a natural salesman. He wrote grants even, and worked with a Hilltop on grants, and even brought in a new member, and that's Dan Cole. I think Mark brought Dan Cole in, so everything goes downhill.
Yeah. It's all your fault.
It's all my fault. Then in 1986, the City of Lakes Chorus competed internationally in Hawaii. And during that time, afterwards we went to Maui, and a lot of people went to Maui, and we were in a hot tub at our place, and Friends was born. So we had 8 married couples with Friends. And that was Doug and Connie Miller, and then Mark and Alana Conlon, and Marcia and Bill Shaw, and ourselves, Janet and myself. We were the beginners and the original cast, and then came in Pat Rigg, and Pat and Dwayne Rigg, and Judy and Jim, Wendy, and Sandy and Brooks Ferguson. And later we had additions. Well, this way we had 2 quartets. Actually, it was our special, our Twin City Alliance, and the Brass Ring, 4 quartets. So when we performed, it really worked great. And many times the other gals, the 4-Star Collection, would sing with us too. So we'd have quite a show. We went down Branson, Missouri area. We had a bus that we had gotten, and we drove all over. And one of the fun times driving down to Missouri, this car passed us. It was full of goats. And they were hanging out the windows. It was a warm day, you know, and they're breathing just like dogs, you know. They're getting some air. And you know, only in Missouri can this happen. Goats passed in a bus. And so it was fun doing shows down there.
I think you should wrap this up.
Huh? Okay. Let's see. Okay, if I want to wrap it. Well, our favorite thing, of course, we went to Ireland with our friends group. That was fantastic. And we had the Gas House gang that was over there too with us, and they performed. And their chorus, Ambassadors of Harmony, performed. And Jim Henry couldn't be there that weekend, so with the quartet and the chorus, so they had David Wright do the directing. And so, great times. We golfed over there, naturally. I think you golfed with us, and there were so many great memories over the 38 years. I just wished I could have had more of it. And the best in barbershopping is right down here. Bring the camera down. There we go. Right here. All right. You're a true barbershopper when you wear these socks. Thank you.